So welcome to another episode of Front Row by Economy.lk. My name is Johan Lawrence. I am the Secretary General of the Joint Apparel Association Forum and the Chairman of the Exporters Association of Sri Lanka. With me today is Suren Fernando, the Group CEO of MAS Holdings, one of Sri Lanka's largest apparel manufacturing and exporting companies. Suren, welcome to Front Row.
Thank you.
What is the outlook for apparel trade in the medium term, and what does this mean for Sri Lanka right now?
Yeah, Johan, the industry went through a lot of challenges over the past couple of years, and what we see right now is some level of recovery and stability. Of course, having said that, considering the world and the chaotic world that we live in, things could change quite rapidly, especially in light of some of the new developments in some of our markets where there's been a change of leadership in countries. And we can see clearly that some of these countries would make use of duty and tariffs as a tool for maybe certain economical or political sort of rivalry or to challenge each other, and that would definitely create some shifts in the industry.
Thank you. What do you see, Suren, as some of the critical factors that could support Sri Lanka during this time where we want to drive value-added exports?
I think we have to go back to some of our basics, Johan, and really look at what makes Sri Lanka special or what we can do to differentiate ourselves from our competition, mostly probably in the region. We've always been recognized as an sustainable and ethical manufacturer, and I think we can continue to leverage and play on that and promote ourselves and actually bring in some of those practices to Sri Lanka, looking at using sustainable material, looking at ways in which we can continue to become more ethical in terms of our manufacturing processes. I think we can really leverage on that because we already have a strong brand reputation as a country. That would be one. Continuing to be more productive and cost competitive also becomes critical because cost is an important piece yet, and that requires a certain degree of modernization, whether it's introducing new manufacturing techniques, use of technology, and really embracing that culture of really continuous improvement where you continue to drive productivity. Innovation, research and development is another area in which we can stay ahead of the industry curve. And again, for that, I believe we do have strong management skills that are required. But again, we also need to develop that whole ecosystem, probably within Sri Lanka, as well as make the required connects globally as well, and really positioning ourselves as someone who can really bring in innovative or new to the world product. Using the latest technologies will again help us to differentiate ourselves and also not purely compete on price, but compete on value.
Thank you. Very quickly, a last one, and one that's very topical at the moment. How do you feel the sector is geared to attract the opportunities or deal with the threats from potential trade disruptions that could be expected with the higher tariffs that President Trump is talking of?
I think, again, we have to look at it. For us as a company, we are probably a slightly better position because we have almost 70% of our manufacturing and our hub is in Sri Lanka, but we also have a 30% outside, and that helps us to manage things in the short term. But I think as a country, we need to continue to look at ways in which we can push for some of the free trade agreements that are currently being negotiated. Those become absolutely important for us to continue to be competitive. But in addition to what I mentioned, we also need to look at some other, because what happens in Sri Lanka is also dependent on what happens in other parts of the world. And I think in that, considering some of the changes that we have seen, for example, in countries like Mexico, which have changed their duty and tariff structures significantly, and some of the brands and retailers are today even scrambling to find new sources of manufacturing or even locating some of their warehouses elsewhere in the world. So these are all opportunities that Sri Lanka can leverage on as well. But at the same time, some of the threats that or challenges that we might foresee is if there is some form of duty or levies on our textile imports that come from, for example, China, that could have a detrimental effect because it will again then increase our cost of production, and in a highly competitive world, brands and retailers might want to come back and ask for better prices or to make sure that they retain their margin. So these are some of the challenges that we have to be mindful of. Having said that, I think the key focus should be to differentiate ourselves, in terms of a value-added exporter and really focusing on research and innovation as an ethical, sourcing and supply base, and of course speed and cost of service. I think those are areas where we can really differentiate ourselves. Being a fast and a flexible manufacturer, really bringing new to the world product to the market. And at the same time, making the product well with ethically sourced material and sustainable sources.
Thank you, Suren, and thank you. That brings us to the end, and thank you for joining us on Front Row by Economy.lk.